It has been almost 7 full months since 2022 has started, and we can already say that this is not going to be the best year for businesses. And based on recent economic reviews, most people think 2022 is not the best time to start your own company. Y Combinator, an accelerator here in Silicon Valley, sent a letter to all of their founders. The letter was titled Economic Downturn, and it advises founders, quote, to plan for the worst. Sequoia Capital, one of the best VC firms in the world, who invested early in Google, who invested early in Apple, warns the founders that the good times are not only over, there's also no indication of when they'll return. So if you're planning to take the leap of faith in 2022, quit your job and start a business, you might be wondering, maybe it's not the best time. Maybe I should take a couple extra years to wait for the economy to return to a better state. Well, today we're gonna talk about what to do if you decide to start a business in 2022 and whether it's worth doing this. But before we dig into things that you should consider if you're starting a business or running a young business in 2022, let me tell you a little bit about my background. So I started a business in 2011. And truth be told, I didn't really care about what kind of cycle we're in, what's going on with the economy. I knew there was 2008 crush, but it didn't really affect my family because we never invested. My family had their stable, low-paying jobs in Russia, and I was like, whatever, let's start in 2011 because I felt like it. When it comes to starting a business, yes, it really matters when you start. And of course, a lot depends on what kind of company you're starting. But I think the key thing, if we take all the business in the world, the key thing is how enthusiastic you are as a founder. Because believe me, the first year is going to be the slowest year in your life. So in 2011, I was still doing my bachelor's, but I was also focusing on our business, which at those times meant that I created all the text for the website. And the business is a study abroad booking agency. So what I had to do is create a profile for every single school that we started to work with, and we ended up working with hundreds of schools, and most of the texts were written by me. So I was just sitting there, and because I was so enthusiastic, I was like, I really want to start a business. I didn't really care about competition, I didn't really care about the economic cycle, I didn't care about anything. The most important thing was my enthusiasm. So if you think that there's just no chance that you're not starting this year, forget about economic cycles. Yes, if you're starting a VC-backed company based on research, maybe it's not the best time to fundraise, but if you're willing to put your extra time into this, I wouldn't really care about any economic cycles. But let me continue with the story. So 2011 was a pretty slow year. 2012 was a better year. And 2013, and my business was based in Russia, 100%. 2013 was the best year for a business. Very stable exchange currency rates. People traveled. Everything was amazing. We made a lot of money. Then 2014, everything crashed because of a political move my country decided to do. But you know what happened in 2014? We started coding a booking platform which later became LinguaTrip. Was it the best idea to reinvest a lot of money in a study abroad booking platform based out of Russia at that time? Absolutely not. And every single investor in Russia told us to shut down the company because they saw no future in study abroad for Russian students. Did it matter for us? No, really. I heard so many no's, but because again, I was so passionate, I was like, whatever, we'll just make it international. We will cross borders, we will raise money in the US. Again, this enthusiasm is the number one thing you should care about when starting a business. And when I think about this now, I'm like, it would be so cool if I still had this 21-year-old Marina mindset who didn't care about anything, because now when I think about a business idea and I start researching the market, and if I see it's not big enough, I'll be like, not worth it. But what time shows is even if you start with a really small idea, if you're super enthusiastic, you can grow it to $1 billion company. So anyways, my number one advice would still be, if you're enthusiastic enough, don't worry about the economic environment. When you're starting a business, it's really important to focus on your superpower as a founder, which means finding product market fit, coming up with new products, talking to clients, versus spending time on repetitive tasks. So 2 pieces of advice. First of all, your first hire should be your personal assistant who would be able to handle repetitive tasks for you. And number 2, finding the right software for your company right away so you could outsource tasks to to that software. And the platform that can help you with marketing is called GetResponse, and they're sponsoring today's video. And I'm also a proud user of GetResponse. We've been using them in LinguaTrip for 5 or 6 years. GetResponse handle marketing automation for you, starting with emails, email sequences, web push notifications, autoresponders, and much more. Using these tools will help you automate your daily tasks as an entrepreneur. With GetResponse, you can pre-build workflows for specific campaigns and easily build your own automations. For example, you create a landing page asking people to leave their email in exchange for a free PDF. With GetResponse, you create an automation when somebody leaves an email and then you send them a welcome email, and then in 2 days you follow up with something educational, and then in 4 days you send them a discount for your core product. Another example of automation, if somebody started booking on your website and they left the card, it's great to create a sequence that would offer a discount in a couple of days, which works really well for me. I start buying something, then my kids distract me, and then in a couple of days I get an email from that website with a $10 discount. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna give back and actually complete my purchase. This is something you can do with GetResponse as well. And of course, building connection with your audience. Community is the first. Loyal audience, loyal customers is something that matters as much as quality product, and GetResponse helps you with that as well. You can also set predetermined delivery times and schedules, analyze their effectiveness, and adjust them as needed. GetResponse makes your life as an entrepreneur a lot easier, and if you have less than 500 contacts, it's completely free. Check out the link in the description box. If you're not enthusiastic enough to not care about what's going on in the world, let's look at some things that other people say and what smart business people tell founders to do this year. First of all, Sequoia Capital advises to cut costs and have longer runway. So the runway is normally measured in months, and at LinguaTrip we're really serious about making sure we have at least 6 months of runway. What does it mean? For example, you're starting a company, you decided to invest $10,000 in it, and it costs you, say, $5,000 to run a company. So your runway is 2 months. Because we're in Silicon Valley, most companies here don't make money, they only spend money, but at some stage they become cash flow positive, which means you generate more than you burn. So with LinguaTrip, we're cash flow positive, but the way we calculate our run rate, we assume that we're gonna generate $0. And if we don't want to fire the whole team, how much it's gonna cost us to run a company? And we always try to have at least 6 months of runway that would allow us to pivot. And this is a very smart decision. We're in the times when, every 2 years something major happens. And 2020, we had the same strategy, 6 months of runway. And we were focusing mostly on study abroad. Guess what happened in 2020? Study abroad was crashed by the COVID pandemic, and 90% of our revenue was gone in a matter of weeks. And because we had enough money in the bank, we were able to maintain most of the team and pivot to online education. Some entrepreneurs would argue, but why would you have so much money in the bank? It's better to spend them on marketing. This is my type of personality. Always think about what you're most comfortable with. I am most comfortable with planning for the worst all the time, probably just because of my background. Another advice, if you're raising money, and a lot of people say like there is no investing happening right now, blah, blah, blah. Actually, when I'm talking to all of the VCs out here, they actually say that they're going to invest more in seed companies these days. And a seed company means basically a startup. You're just starting out. And they say that valuations are going to be better for investing this year, and there will be more startups to choose from. So people are still investing. Is it going to be harder to raise money? Absolutely. Is it still possible to raise money? Absolutely. And of course, always keep at least 3 scenarios in your head. So the way it works with our company, we always have the best case scenario. Say we're growing 10% month over month, and this is our cash flow. And if we do this, these are the projects that we're going to invest in. These are the marketing tools that we're going to try. These are the products that we're going to launch. Another scenario is based on the assumption that we're not growing at all. So we have the same amount of revenue coming in, the same amount of expenses. How do we optimize? How do we still make room for investing in other things? And the worst case scenario, just like I said to you, what if our revenue goes to 0 in a matter of a week or 2 weeks? Because we're so used to it now. So always have these scenarios in your head. Always try to plan. And when I say plan, it's not like you're gonna follow the plan blindly. It's just you talking to yourself, where I'm going with this company. What do I want to do with it if it starts growing like crazy? Now, another great thing to remember, downturn affects everyone, especially big companies who have a huge burn rate and who are not prepared for this economic downturn. Again, look at my industry. So many acquisitions happened right after COVID because some people were planning for the worst and they had enough funds to invest in other businesses, and some businesses did not plan, they lived from month to month. So the economic downturn could be a huge opportunity, especially for a small, frugal business which doesn't have a lot of expenses. So please do not forget to look at this time as an opportunity as well. And the last but not the least, if you want to understand how your industry is doing, look at stocks and reports of bigger companies in your market. For example, let's talk about creator economy, something else to understand. There have been a lot of reports that a lot of companies are cutting budgets. And in addition to reading reports, it's also great to talk to smaller companies. Like for example, crypto winter, companies not going bankrupt, but Celsius stopped paying people back, and I actually had $500 on Celsius because they reached out and asked if I was interested in collabing with them, and I was like, before we collab, let me put some money in and test it out. And I'm glad I actually did that because this is what happened in the end. So I lost that amount of money. And I also talked to a lot of crypto startups, and one of the startups I invested in, they actually pivoted away from blockchain because they see blockchain as a threat to their fundraising and economic model right now, just because everything is crashing. So always try to have at least like 2 or 3 people in the industry who you could talk to. Ideally friends who would be honest with you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video up to the very end. Again, don't forget that founder enthusiasm is one of the most important things in the business. You might start a business in crypto because you're so excited about it, but then the market goes down and everybody quits the market, but you're so passionate about it that in 5 years, when everything is exploding with growth again, you will be #1 player. And this is what happens really often. We hear about companies where founders have been focusing on a company for 10 years and nobody paid attention, but then boom, and they found their product market fit after some pivoting, and they're billionaires now. So founder enthusiasm, #1 thing that is not affected by economic downturns. Thank you guys so much for watching this video up to the very end. Don't forget to subscribe to Silicon Valley Girl, and I'll see you very soon in my next videos. Bye bye.